getting answers from all across Northern California. This is the CBS 13 News at 10.
We have officers who do outrageous things, and a lot of officers who do these things are never even disciplined at all. So we know it's failing.
Amid recent tensions between law enforcement and the public, there are many communities across the country that are now questioning whether we have the right people protecting our streets. And tonight, how does law enforcement decide who gets to wear a badge, and is the system flawed?
Only on CBS 13, Sharon Roget digs deeper into these questions. As more and more controversial videos of police interactions go viral, there has been a greater demand for transparency and accountability. And many agencies, including our own, say that the increased public scrutiny has led in part to a sharp decline in recruits. But what many may not realize is just getting your foot in the door as an officer or deputy can be an extremely difficult process.
We have peace officers who have the right to restrict our freedoms and to use force against us and to invade our privacy. You want to get the best people doing that job.
Amid tensions and protests and calls for reform, police work has never been more scrutinized as it is today, and choosing the right officer has become more important than ever.
Scenario's hot.
Here at the Sacramento Sheriff's Department Academy is where recruits go after they've already gone through a series of application tests and an extensive background check. Academy Director Sergeant Orlando Mays says recruits are not only trained, but put in high-stress, reality-based scenarios to see if they can handle the heat.
Looking for someone that can physically handle themselves, emotionally handle themselves. Decision-making is very important, and we don't want anyone that's going to lose their temper. Intellectually as well, how they can communicate and deal with the public.
This evaluation process has a high bar. In fact, the Sheriff's Department's last recruitment drew 1,000 applicants, but only 10 actually made it to the mandatory psychological evaluation.
We're looking at suitability in addition to stability.
Police and forensic psychologist Philip Trumpeter has done thousands of pre-employment psychological evaluations on law enforcement candidates, a state requirement for the last 30 years.
The tests are very, very robust in being able to identify, say, impulse control problems or irritability and hostility.
So who doesn't make the cut?
They're screened out because they're impulsive, they don't have good emotional control, they're not good team players.
Get down on the ground now.
With more communities looking for change, the psychological assessment is key to assessing qualities such as integrity, judgment, assertiveness, and character.
We don't select people for this position, which has a significant responsibility, on a whim.
Sacramento police officer Matt McPhail says at a time when interactions between officers and members of the public are being recorded and blasted on social media and scrutinized, there is even more of a need to maintain high hiring standards.
We're talking about a very small portion of the people that even want to become officers making it through the process.
But much of the public criticism questions what happens after law enforcement officers are hired, and what happens when racial tensions boil to the surface, when black suspects end up dead or badly injured after a confrontation with a white officer. Many times, the officer is exonerated.
Is there a system in place right now to screen out prejudice within candidates?
It's very difficult because there's very little research, at least around peace officer screening, to identify who may be racist, who may be too biased to be in this profession. It's clearly something that's looked at by agencies in their background investigations. And so we're just trying to find a way in the psychological evaluation to incorporate that.
And while there are hundreds of officers and deputies on our law enforcement agencies who do the right thing, the ones who don't leave a scar on the rest.
What more can be done?
Police chiefs have to be held responsible, and the people below them, the lieutenants and the sergeants. They have to be responsible for the performance of the people under their supervision.
Yet officers say their bar is set high and needs to stay there.
The decisions that you make are going to impact the rest of the country and the rest of the world. So we want to make sure that we're making and picking and selecting the right people to make that decision.
Now, according to a report by the Pew Research Center conducted last year, the majority of officers, about 67%, believe that these police and African-American encounters are isolated incidents. But the majority of the public, about 60%, believe that these encounters point to a bigger problem. both sides will agree there is certainly room for improvement. For more details on the vetting process that goes into becoming a law enforcement officer, you can head to our website, cbs13.com.